think we're going live now. Let's see. Gotta get it to show the full TV. Yep, we are going live. Now I'll go to Commando IPTV.
If he wants to be in horticulture or whatever he wants to do, he will do it with all the gusto possible. But it's scary. You have no control over Mother Nature. Anything can happen.
Today on Rescue 911. Danger in a no trespassing zone. One wrong move plunges a woman down a 150-foot drop.
And I was just blown away that she was alive.
I can't feel my legs.
Plus,
What's wrong?
mother's helper shoots scalding hot water in a baby's path.
It looked like his body was very raw, like there was no skin.
There's no way this kid's gonna live.
On Rescue 911.
On February 28, 1994, volunteers of the Palm Springs Mounted Police, headed by Rescue Coordinator Chris Maxwell, were called in to search a rugged desert canyon in southeastern California. 3 boys reported missing had been seen there the day before, but no one was sure they were still there.
Apparently they went up there to play hooky or go home when school was out. I've interviewed their parents.
The local police department wasn't very concerned because these juveniles had frequently played hooky. But we decided to take a cursory search in the lower canyon. It's a no trespassing area, but people continually walk by those signs.
All right, let's go down.
The upper canyon is more of a danger.
Reserve Officer John Hathaway was among the volunteers on the search team.
We got to the end of the lower trail, and the consensus was that these kids were probably back at one of the local eateries laughing at all the trouble they had caused.
Let's go to the top and make sure.
But I felt that since we had come this far, we should at least go check the upper trail.
So I suppose you want me to go with you?
It'd be good exercise.
John's sort of a fitness nut. It's a very treacherous and very demanding climb. So 2 of the team members decided to go back.
The area is made up of a lot of decomposed granite, which can come apart when you step on it. About anything that a hiker can get in trouble with is there.
Once you get up there, you're on a real narrow trail. It's about 400 feet above the valley floor.
As kind of a lark, I just yelled out, "Hello." To my astonishment, there was a return reply of "help me." Once you're in the canyon, there really is no way out. Whoever it was over the side, they were not going to get out on their own.
When we continue,
We figured that we had a rescue and then a body recovery.
these are the times.
When the laughs come from the heart,
This was a little bit of shock to both Chris and I because there had been no report of a missing female hiker.
Are you alone?
She said, "I'm hiking with Jennifer." And this was a little confusing since she just said her name was Jennifer.
We figured that we had a rescue and then a body recovery.
She was a couple hundred feet below us, and it was a very sheer grade.
We didn't have ropes with us at the time.
Franklin Bay, do you copy? We have located 2 victims. One's alive and one body recovery. Working on the helicopter right now. We'll get the teams together. We're sending your way.
She was scared. Since she'd been there alone for some time, I started to hike to the end of the canyon to see if I could get down to Jennifer before darkness.
hello?
I heard a voice. I immediately knew it was Jennifer number 2, and I was just blown away that she was alive.
How you doing?
She was shivering. I could tell by the blood on the rock that she had a gash on the back of her head.
I can't feel my legs.
I knew that she definitely had some spinal injuries. It was very important that we got her out forthwith.
We need to get this going. It's getting dark quick and she will not last the night. Helicopter is 15 minutes out. We'll be in the air shortly. Yeah, you doing good?
While we waited for the ship to arrive, she told me that they'd both fallen. Her friend, Jennifer, had gone for help. She'd had no food or water for about 24 hours.
Like to find helicopters? Yeah. You'll be alright, Jen. You'll be alright. Kenny's here. You'll take good care of you.
When Nurse Ken Piner reached the scene, he took over her care.
Kenny, this is brave little Jennifer. I guess she's doing great.
My greatest concern was getting her out and without adding additional injury to her. I could see where she had fallen from. It was about 150 feet up.
They told no one they were going to go hiking there, so no one had reported a missing.
And it was fortunate that we'd gotten called for something totally different. If we had not found her when we did, I fully believe that she would have died before.
I had gone through my mind for the last 2 hours of what needed to be done to get Jennifer, 1, out.
Helicopters cannot fly inside the canyon after dark, so I rappelled down.
The darkness just intensifies the amount of danger. We just have to be that much more careful.
The first thing I had to tell her that her friend was okay.
Stay there. Oh, no.
She was crying, she was so happy.
Come on, everything's great.
She did not want to wait till morning to bring her out, so we hooked up a haul system so we could pull Jennifer up to our location.
Watch yourself now.
I went ahead and put a cervical collar on her for safety, and I tied her about 6 feet above me on the rope.
Hey, the haul. Haul. Stop, put yourself on the rock. Nice Nice and easy, nice and easy.
The first victim, 22-year-old Jennifer Mays, had been taken to Desert Hospital, where she was examined by trauma surgeon Oscar Paz-Altru.
She had the signs of environmental exposure and couldn't feel a pinprick from the belly button down.
You can see the CAT scan here.
The x-rays were fairly dramatic. We could see a bony fragment completely displaced into the spinal canal, and this will act as a projectile and will sever the spinal cord at that level. There was no doubt in my mind that the damage was permanent.
I'm Dr. Pasa.
Her mother, Lupe Vera, was not prepared for the news.
She has a very bad spine.
I cared for her so much, I loved her so much that my feelings were disbelief and just numb.
Oh! Do you work down here?
We talked about everything else except what we were doing. If that rope would have snapped, we both would have gone down to our desks.
It took another hour and a half to 2 hours to get her from the bottom of the canyon to the landing zone where the helicopter could put one skid on a rock and pick her up. It was the hardest rescue I ever did.
Although 23-year-old Jennifer Staten fractured 2 vertebrae, she has recovered. Her best friend, Jennifer Mays, was hospitalized for 4 months, undergoing rehabilitation to learn to live with the paralysis she suffered when she fell.
When I took her up there, west of shore, there's actually green and water, and you know, it's really pretty up there.
Done this before, right? Yeah. I was a kid.
We were joking and laughing around, and I decided that I was gonna try and climb down to see the waterfall up close.
I started to climb down to see if she was, you know, okay. I was not able to move, and that was kind of scary, you know, have no power over your body to just get up and go.
Well, you know what? When I went to Vegas,
She's still the same person that she was before. She's the one that's still cracking the jokes, having a good time. She's the one that's keeping everybody up when they're down. I have a lot of guilt because she is more hurt than me, and it's really hard to deal with. But she's in my heart, just like, you know, the best of friends that I have, and I hope that it stays that way.
Can he help me?
Yes. My children are the ones that motivated me. I know that I had to get on no matter what. Feeling sorry, there's, you know, I don't have time for that. Just to be able to see them each day is the biggest thing.
I'm not quite interesting, so.
The major lesson I hope people learn is that when they go somewhere to let someone know where they're hiking and let them know about when they think they're going to be back.
And I also hope that they learn that sometimes those no trespassing signs are there for a reason. They're not there just to keep you out, they're there also to keep you from getting into trouble like the Jennifers did.
My legs are up in the air.
They're putting themselves in danger to do what they have to do. And without them, you know, I probably wouldn't be here. We got pretty close there. So I just tell them, you got me out of there, you gotta deal with me for the rest of your life.
Next.
Yeah, honey. No, I had told her no. Wait till I'm done with dishes, and then I'll give you both a bath, and then get you in your pajamas.
Ah, nothing goes down like a fresh cup of funny side up. Why don't you let Big Daddy put a little sugar in your coffee? danger that lay waiting inside their own house. While 4-year-old Leslie and 50-month-old RJ watched television, Jackie and her oldest daughter Misty washed the dinner dishes.
Yeah, honey. No, honey, not right now, okay? I'm doing the dishes. I had told her no. Wait until I'm done with dishes, and then I'll give you both a bath, and then get you in your pajamas.
So when is your trip? Wednesday or Thursday?
But she loves her brother, and she tries to play mother hen with him.
I tested the water and it was too hot, and I went to turn it down, and I accidentally my hand went the other way. Did I sign that? The next thing we knew, Leslie was screaming. Go check on him. I went in the bathroom, and RJ was sitting in the bath water, and it looked like toilet paper floating in the water, but there was really a skin. I learned that you never touch burns because you never want burns to get dirty, so I didn't touch them.
What's wrong? It looked like his body was very raw, like there was no skin. When he didn't cry, I thought he was gone.
A basic life support CN ambulance was immediately dispatched.
I was very afraid to hold him because where do you grab a child that is severely burnt from the chest area down? You can't hug him. It just didn't look like a little boy anymore.
Just hang on to him. Hang on.
Jackie called her best friend and next-door neighbor, Robin Miller, for help.
Misty was holding them. She looked at me with such desperation in her eyes that I took the baby from her and looked at him.
Yeah, we're just coming, right? They're coming.
I just picked him straight up so I could see his face. You really didn't want to look at the rest of his body. You wanted to concentrate on his face.
The first rescue unit arrived within 3 minutes, including EMT Peggy Riddell.
The minute we saw the baby, we knew there was no time for assessment.
We've got to go.
He lost so much flesh and so much fluid. We felt we could lose him at any moment. He looked up at me with these big, beautiful eyes, sort of saying, "Help me."
We are going to meet with a paramedic, though.
The danger of infection was monumental.
I needed that towel off him.
We immediately put him in a burn sheet, cooled him down with a little saline, placed him in oxygen, and off we went.
Nice and slow. Come on, breathe.
I kept telling him what a brave little boy he was. He likes to call me Rock. I kept saying, "Stay with Aunt Rock. Stay with Aunt Rock. You're going to be fine. We're going to get you there. We're going to take care of you. You're going to be fine."
They stopped to pick up paramedic Paul Wallace, who was trained in advanced life support.
Let's go. What do you got?
190% shot.
When I got into the ambulance, I opened the burn sheet and I see that he's got to be burned probably 75% of his body.
Okay, what do we got back here?
A critical burn is the hands or the feet or the genitalia. He's got them all. He's got them all. There's no way this kid's going to live.
15-month-old RJ Rose was taken to Hurley Medical Center, where a trauma team was standing by, led by emergency physician Margaret Cummings.
One of the initial and most serious problems is fluid loss. Because the skin barrier is lost, the fluid loss is tremendous. And if fluid is not adequately replaced, the kidneys will fail.
RJ's father, Randy, joined his wife at the hospital as soon as he learned what had happened.
More than 50% of his body.
They just kept saying, all you kids can do is just pray for your son, because as bad as he is burned, we don't think he's going to make it through the night. And I ran out of the room, just crying.
When I first saw him that night, they had paralyzed him, and he looked so innocent, so innocent. He's such a perfect little boy. He loves his hugs, loves his kisses. I just had to pray that he was going to be okay.
Somehow, RJ managed to survive the night. He spent the next 4 months in the hospital. In the 2.5 years since the incident, he has undergone a series of skin grafts.
I think that RJ is a very lucky child. He will require more corrective plastic surgery, but he eventually should be able to lead a fairly normal life.
Misty's my little hero because the doctors had told me that if she would have waited 3 seconds longer to pull him out of the bathtub, he would not have survived. He would have died from shock.
When my brother came home, I felt good and happy that he didn't die. I'm glad RJ's home because I can play with him. I love him. I jump on the trampoline with him all the time. That's a doggy that you like.
The lesson here is you don't need scalding hot water in your home. You can turn down your thermostat and still have enough hot water.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? When I saw RJ, I was amazed. I never thought he would survive, and here he is, and he seems just fine. And it's great.
Done. The only thing I can say is thank you, but it's still not enough. Nothing in the world could be enough for him.
Well, read it out loud. We'd like to hear that.
Read it out loud.
Yeah.
It says Sergeant Paul Walls for actions well beyond the call of duty on February 18th, 1992.
Today on Rescue 911. One more for the road. Driving under the influence.
I checked the driver real quick, and he was obviously dead.
Turns a truck into a loaded weapon.
When I opened the door, the hurricane rolled down onto the pavement.
Plus, terror surrounds a 5-year-old home alone.
I just got home from school and my mom's here right here.
On Rescue 911.
We begin in Lafayette, Ohio on January 28, 1992. As Paul Prater left his home that night, he never considered how one decision he would make for himself would affect so many other lives.
In the afternoon, a couple of my friends stopped by. We started drinking and talking over old times. I suppose we stayed around there 2 to 3 hours. I was going to go see a lady friend of mine, and we was going to watch movies and eat pizza that evening. It didn't cross my mind whether I was able to drive or not. I remember going around the peak of the hill. After that, I don't recall anything until waking up in the trauma unit.
I could say this was a tremendous impact. I felt when I got out of the vehicle there were going to be serious injuries in this accident, if not fatalities.
Can you hear me?
If you can't pick your family,
Shock that I just drove upon Max. I could say this was a tremendous impact. I felt when I got out of the vehicle there were going to be serious injuries in this accident, if not fatalities.
Sir, can you hear me?
I went up to the large pickup. The driver was laying across the seat, making noise and moving somewhat.
I'll be back with you just a second.
I went up to the driver of the small pickup
Can you hear me at all, sir?
and checked his vital signs for breathing or pulse and could find neither the passenger that was moaning and groaning.
Ma'am, can you hear me? I'm a deputy sheriff. I'm here to help you.
I'm not sure that she understood really what was going on. She had serious facial injuries and her legs were entangled in the metal and plastic of the dash.
Forty shock and have one.
She was in tremendous pain and there was just nothing I could do to give her any assistance.
Quick as possible.
I thought there was a good possibility that she would also die.
Put them over there. We can get in there.
The impact had compressed the cab of the small truck. No matter how hard we tried, we couldn't get the door to open.
Shockton County EMS paramedic Randy Curtis was first called over to help the passenger in the small pickup truck.
How you doing? Can you hear me talking to you?
She was gurgling a lot on her own blood. I stabilized her neck and opened her airways so she'd be able to breathe on her own.
Want to take C-spine for me? Sure.
I checked the driver real quick, and he was obviously dead. The steering wheel probably got him in the chest, and he died on impact more than likely. Neither of them had their seatbelts on. It's always hard to say what if, but chances are seatbelts are going to help you. She had real severe head injuries, and she had chest injuries. Had patients before who have ended up dying in hospital or dying there on scene from injuries like this. When the patient's this critical, you just never know.
It appeared that alcohol had been used by the driver of the large pickup. When I opened the door, beer cans rolled out onto the pavement. He was conscious. He had some injuries. They didn't appear to be as severe as the people in the other vehicle.
SkyMed helicopter flight nurse Mary Ellen Morton arrived and began treating the female victim.
And once we laid her on the board, it became just massive amounts of blood coming from these facial lacerations and fractures. She was disoriented and would not cooperate, and I suspected immediately she had a major brain injury. There was open fractures to both of the long bones in her legs, and in order just to maintain any kind of blood pressure on her, we had to give a lot of fluids. I felt her injuries were so serious that she could have died at any moment. Most of the time, when we're involved in accident scenes, drinking and driving has something to do with it. And the effects are devastating.
35-year-old Patricia Johnson was taken to Ohio State University Medical Center, where a trauma team was standing by, including orthopedic surgeon Robert Ostrom.
Anytime someone's killed in a car accident, we're very concerned because that means there's serious injuries to the person that survived that car accident.
Okay, let's see what we got.
She had 2 massive wounds of her left leg.
Got a fracture on this side too, okay. All right, x-ray. Good.
Her hip joint on the left side was shattered. She lost 3 inches of bone from her thigh bone on the left, and the thigh bone on the right was also broken.
Okay, let's make the rest. We're gonna go to the OR.
I was upset to see such severe injuries in a patient and to find out a drunk driver had caused these injuries.
Patricia underwent more than 10 hours of surgery, but remained in a coma. Her husband, David, and her parents, Betty and George Fries, were not able to see her until the next day.
Unbelievable. I want to just tell her how much I loved her. Just please wake.
it was tough seeing her that way. I just figured she was gone. Never get her back home.
At the time of the incident, the driver of the other truck's blood alcohol level was 2.5 times the legal limit. He had 4 prior convictions for driving under the influence.
When I learned that a drunk driver had killed David and hurt Patricia, I was very angry. I had so much hate. If I could have got rid of him, I would have probably tried to kill him.
Patricia did not come out of the coma for a week and spent 2 months in the hospital. For the past 1.5 years, she's been undergoing painful physical therapy.
I had to get 2 hip replacements. I had 3 inches of bone torn out of my leg. Now I'm kind of short-legged on my left leg. I'm blind in my left eye. And the pain, I'll always have the pain.
2 years after the accident, Patricia is still trying to come to grips with the death of family friend David Marlatt.
It was hard for me to find out David was killed. He was a close friend. He took my dad and me fishing all the time.
David was a heck of a nice guy. He was one of the best guys I ever known. I don't know, it just seems like I just don't care for fish much anymore since he's been gone.
If I could just take some of their pain and their grief and make it easier, I would do anything possible, but much I can do.
Driver Paul Prater is serving a 6.5 to 15-year sentence in prison and has had his license revoked permanently.
It was hard to accept that I took a life. I would go to bed with it, I woke up with it. I wanted to write Patricia a letter to find out how she was getting along in her recovery. And probably a week later, I received a letter from her. She told me what it was like at home, how hard it was living out of a wheelchair. And I knew that I was the cause of this whole thing.
Paul now speaks to high school students in hopes that others can learn from his mistakes.
Believe me, this is not what I had in mind for my future. When I look around, I have to wonder how many of you out there will be wearing these because you thought, like I thought, this can't happen to me. I've got control over my life.
Recently, Patricia also began attending to try to share her suffering and her loss.
I can't say enough about the pain that I put these families through. I look at the eyes and hope someone's listening to my story and how easy it is to get in a place like this, how easy it is to destroy lives, and destroy families.
After an event on October 12, 1994, Patricia and Paul spoke privately for the first time.
We wrote quite a few letters. She must be one special person to be able to accept what's happened and still correspond with me, tell me her feelings, and want to know my feelings.
Something I've been wanting to say for a long time is thank you very much for responding to my first letter. That means a lot to me. I mean, putting myself in your place, I don't know if I can be that strong.
I just want you to know that I forgive you for what you've done. At times I do hate you for what you've done. I wouldn't wish my accident on my worst enemy. And if my story could just help one person not drink and drive, I'd be really thankful.
I took the life of someone and seriously injured someone else. It took a split second to cross that line and change so many lives. My advice to anybody that's drinking and driving, you better beware the consequences of that could end you in a place like I am.
Next.
I wanted her to stay with me on the phone. I felt that she could be in a lot more danger if she left that house.
So you just stay with me so I know you're okay.
You're gonna receive a lot more than you bargained for, but you don't get out of my way.
Yeah.
The afternoon of January 15th, 1993.
Emergency 911.
Hi. I just got home from school. And my mom's here.
Okay.
Shiawassee County Dispatcher Michelle Spencer took the call.
She didn't do it on purpose. She probably just assumed my wife took me home.
Okay, what is your name?
And my number.
I can remember hearing this little voice, and it was so shaky. I had to find out why she was there. And I had to find out if I couldn't help her somehow feel safer.
Did your mom leave you a note or anything?
No.
Okay, do you have any idea where she might go?
No. She probably went to the school.
Oh, you think she's there looking for you?
Yes.
Okay. What school do you go to, Amanda?
Family.
The family school? Do you go to school all day?
I don't know how much hours work if we stay there. Probably just an hour.
Oh. Do you usually come home for lunch, Amanda?
Yes, I'm hungry.
When you're hungry too? Are you inside your house?
Yes.
The other dispatcher on duty that day was Judy Voorhees.
I called the school, and they were very cooperative, went out and tried to see if we could locate the mother, see if she was sitting out there waiting for Amanda, but they had no luck. They couldn't find her car.
Is the police there?
Yeah, you're talking to the police. That's me.
Okay.
Is there anybody?
I did talk with someone that knew the Shook family, so she gave me information of where Dad worked.
Do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes.
You do?
Two brothers.
You do, Brown?
I don't have any sisters.
I did call her father, but he was gone to lunch. So I left a message and told him I needed to speak with him. It was very important.
Is your daddy's first name Joe?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Well, because that's what 911 tells us. It tells us what your daddy's name is.
I wanted her to stay with me on the phone where I knew she'd be okay. I felt that she could be in a lot more danger if she left that house and went searching for her mom.
So you just stay with me so I know you're okay.
I'm okay, but I'm really scared.
Yeah, I know it is scary sometimes, but that's okay. You did the right thing. Did they teach you how to use 911 at school?
No, I just learned in my mind.
Oh, good. Do you have a grandma, grandpa in town?
Yeah.
Do they
I don't know their number.
Oh, okay. Okay, do you know their name?
Yeah, I have one grandpa. Oh, he died. And the other one, he's not real my grandpa. I don't know what to do.
Well, just hold on, because I think I have your daddy on another phone.
My daddy?
Yeah?
Her father called me back just a few minutes later, and he was very concerned.
So you're not scared anymore.
I was quite flabbergasted because we had never put her in that type of predicament. And I could just imagine the fear that she must be feeling at the time.
What is he gonna do with?
Oh, I don't think he's going to do anything. I just think he wants to make sure you're not scared. Well, we're gonna find out so that you'll know, and I'll just stay right on the phone with you until he gets there. Would that be okay? And you could just talk to me some more.
I sat in the trunk waiting for her, watching these other kids get off the buses, and when she didn't get off, I thought something really awful could have happened. I thought I'd wait a few more minutes, and this lady comes out and asks me if I was Amanda Shook's mother. I instantly knew something wasn't right.
Phone with 911, she's fine.
How did she get home?
I don't know. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
But it's better with someone with.
Oh, I know it is. We'll get somebody to your house real fast. Oh, no. You don't have to be afraid to call. No, we'll help you. We're not going to arrest your mom.
She was afraid to call 911, and I think a lot of kids are. But if they really feel that they need help, we're there. If this is not a 911 situation, we'll have to tell them that. But we'll do our best.
I'm here. I called 911.
Is that your dad? Hello? Hi. Is this Mrs. Shook? Yes, it is. Oh, good. I'm glad you're there. Oh, I've been talking to your daughter. She was very scared. She's a very good...
Now she has phone numbers listed on the refrigerator to call her grandmother or even a neighbor. I don't think she'll have to use 911 again.
I never been home alone before. I never want to be home alone again.
I'll be grateful the rest of my life to those people. I'm back doing just about everything that I've always done. I can't quite keep up with Bob, but I'm slow but steady. I did get the blue ribbon. You know, ooh, that was the most expensive blue ribbon I ever got.
Your husband's gonna start wondering.
Today on Rescue 911, innocent children are in danger. A neighbor's careless aim explodes into a deadly disaster.
It was just a nightmare unfolding right in front of my face.
I loved my sister and I didn't want to see her die.
Plus, a go-kart crash nearly kills a little boy.
His chances of survival are not that good.
kind of hope that I'm a good example of a bad example.
Neither he nor his father has forgotten all the people who came to his aid.
I really want to try for it. They did such a great job with taking care of me.
I'm so appreciative that people will pick people up after they've injured themselves or gotten in accidents. It's like angels of mercy. They're great.
Today on Rescue 911, disaster strikes a small town. A minor brush fire turns into a major emergency.
He was in pretty bad shape. I knew I'd done it.
And a fireman's life is on the line.
He had blood coming from his ears and from his nose.
Plus, an exhibition turns deadly when it leads to heart failure.
When I got to him, I assumed it was all over. This was a critical call. All we could do was try.
On Rescue 911.
We begin in the small town of Blue Mound, Texas. Dispatcher Kathy Enriquez's whole family works for the local fire department there, so whenever she takes a call like the one she got on the morning of March 14, 1994, she has reason to be concerned.
Blue Mound 911, what is your emergency? Someone called to say there was a grass fire north of our city. My job is to answer every phone call that comes in. I'm the 911 operator, dispatcher, and court clerk. I dispatched the Blue Mound brush truck to the scene.
Lieutenant Mike Prickles had been a member of the force for 4 years.
The train that day was extremely muddy, and my truck was the only truck around that had four-wheel drive capability.
Our fire department is strictly volunteer. It's our protocol to wait until another firefighter responds to the station before we can leave. And the first person to arrive that day was Matt Enriquez. Matt's a real nice guy, and he's a real good friend of mine.
Look at me, tap this out pretty quick.
Normal precautions on a brush truck consisted of tethering device, also reverse lights coupled with a reverse beeper, which we hadn't installed yet. At the time we got there, the fire wasn't that big. Me and Matt assumed that it would be an easy one to tap out. There was fire on the right and left side, and the flames increased to about 10 feet high. It was soggy. There was extremely good chance of getting caught in the mud. And it got to the point where I thought it was dangerous to go any further. I did not want to get my truck stuck when I was so close to the head of the fire.
The way the truck is situated, I cannot see directly behind the truck.
So I did not know where Matt was standing. On my last reverse, I felt the right rear of the truck bounce up. When I exited the truck, I turned around and I did not see Matt on the tailboard, and I instantly knew what had happened.
The next thing I heard was Mike screaming, medic, medic, I need a medic, and I need a medic now. Tommy terrified?
I knew it was dispatch. It was his mother. I did not tell dispatch that it was Matt. I just told that we had a firefighter down.
I know it's Matt. I just know that's what's going on. I gotta call Care Flight. Matt was supposed to be at work. I had no idea he was on the scene, but I knew it was Matt immediately. I knew it was my son. It was just instinct.
Hear me?
when we continue.
He was unconscious. His helmet was cracked and broken, and the first thing that went through my mind was I'd killed one of my friends, one of my firefighters.
These are the times.
When the laughs come from the heart, it's not just comedy.
He was at least alive.
There was a lot of fire around us, and it's moving a couple miles an hour. I needed to get him some medical attention real quick, but nobody could get to us. He stood up by himself and got in the truck, and that was good enough for me. I was going to get him out of there and get him across to the command center. He was in pretty bad shape, and I knew I'd done it.
What happened, Michael? I ran him over the fire truck. I think he fell out. Matt, you hear me?
It was very evident that I ran over his head. It was very evident that I backed over his midsection with the tire.
I know it's gonna hurt.
It's a feeling I'll never forget. He was one of my firefighters that was under my command. And I felt that I'd hurt him real bad, if not killed him.
Do you want any change in status on the firefighter? 10-9 means I can't understand you're gonna have to repeat. I ask again. C1, firefighter status? 10-9. They kept saying 10-9 because they knew I was dispatching.
City Secretary Pat Stokes was a friend of Kathy's.
It was horrible to have to watch the pain she was going through, knowing this was her child. I was so impressed at her professionalism. She stayed right on her job. She did right what she was supposed to do. And there were tears. There was fear. It was just like you could cut it with a knife, but she was there.
Matt's friend, regional ambulance paramedic Jim Davis, arrived within 10 minutes.
I kneeled down next to him and I asked him who he was because I couldn't recognize him.
Ran over.
He had blood coming from his ears and from his nose. He had a large abrasion across the lower part of his rib cage, and he was bleeding internally. And that's not so we can stop in the field, we can only slow it down. I was concerned he might not make it.
While Mike returned to fight the fire, 20-year-old Matt Enriquez was taken by Care Flight helicopter to a nearby hospital. Kathy joined her husband Manuel at the hospital as soon as she was relieved from duty.
But when you're told that your son been ran over, you thought you lost your heart.
No, not yet.
Because when you love someone, you don't want to see them hurt.
As soon as I walked to the door, he said, Mama. And he said, I kept thinking, God, please don't let me die. I want to go home. I kissed him and I cried and I rubbed his head and talked to him. But I was totally relieved because when he said Mama, I knew he was all right.
Although their son suffered back and neck injuries in the accident, amazingly, Matt's only broken bones were in his jaw and ankle. In the months that have passed, Matt has been slowly recovering from his injuries.
I still have a lot of neck pain and back pain, and my shoulder still hurts a lot. But other than that, I'm doing a lot better. My family gave me a lot of support. My fiance helped me recover a lot. I seen how much she really cared for me. That if I was hurt or healthy or what, she'd always be by my side.
5 months after the accident, Matt and his girlfriend, Tabitha Jackson, were married.
If you go through traumas like this, it makes your relationship stronger. You're more aware of how special it is and how precious it is and how fragile it is. We have to take each day like it's our last, because I could lose him at any time.
The reason the accident happened is because there was a lack of communication on the fire scene. I should have told Mike that I was getting off and where I was going to be. But when we didn't wear the helmet, and the truck backed up over my head, it probably crushed my skull because it cracked the helmet. The mud helped out a lot also because it was an extra cushion. Safety's first. Because if you get hurt, there's no way you can help anyone else out.
Get out of me.
Firefighting is dangerous. Accidents happen. Some are freak accidents, some are misjudgment, and some are just flat mistakes.
The first time you got wet washing the truck, right?
I'm still amazed that Matt is alive. Anybody that's run over by a fire truck just shouldn't come out like he did. So I'm very happy that he made it through that day.
He has a whole lot to live for. He knows that his family will stand beside him. It doesn't matter what he goes through. There's a lot of good people watching out for Matthew.
Next, I clapped Ted on the back and told him what a great run we had, and he went like a deflated balloon.
Got a lot of brass, Mr. Walker. Texas Ranger.
Every weeknight starting Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central.
At the State Fair in Rutland, Vermont in 1992, Bob Jones and his father Ted discovered that the true test of a community's strength is the ability to pull together when every moment counts.
Driven by Bob Jones, owned and driven by Ted Jones. Take off your hat, Ted, to show them where you are.
My father, he's a die-hard mule lover. I was kind of embarrassed to be seen leading a mule when everybody else was leading a horse, but years ago I decided to go along with him and help him out.
Ted Jones was the announcer of the timed obstacle competition that day. Tony DePalmer was a longtime friend of Ted's.
Ted had a heart attack a number of years ago, but he didn't seem to suffer any recurrences.
Well, she does doing tonight. Oh, the paper's on the barrel and she's out the door. Let's have a hand. Minute 38 seconds. Aaron's got it so far. Who's the next to test? Okay. Uh-oh. Here comes my son. Here he comes.
As soon as you come through the doorway, you're racing against the clock. Karen Munson was ahead of me, and she was just flying around there, and I got really nervous because I thought that there was no possible way I could beat her time.
Okay, folks, let's be quiet. These mules don't back up the best at all.
The most difficult part is definitely the stopping and backing.
He's got him in there. Come on, let's cheer him on there. Here he comes. Around. Across the plywood.
Bobby set the new #1 time. He was able to shave seconds off of Karen's time, which was amazing.
He thinks us people are getting old. You think you can do it faster?
My father was downplaying it, and speaking of how fast his mules went around there. Imagine if they had a real driver on there. So I went and harassed him, and it didn't take much to stir him up.
All mules are more afraid of me than they are. You know.
Bob Jones is one of the most competitive people I know,
Everybody out there wants to see you try.
aside from his dad.
He commented, well, it takes an older guy just to come down and show one of you young fellas how to do it. So he came down out of the booth, and I went up to do the announcing. My father was running a really good time. He was hooting and hollering and saying all kinds of extra commands to the mules that they had no clue what he was talking about.
One of the people watching the event was the Joneses' former neighbor, Wendy Chapin.
We were kind of cheering for Ted, but we were kind of picking on him because they were older too. The younger team against the older team.
run we had, and he went like a deflated balloon. He just went.
Everybody thought that he had fallen over because the time he had done it. I belonged to a volunteer rescue squad, so when I jumped up, I thought, okay, this is it. This is what I was trained to do. But I was shaken and I was really nervous.
Immediately, I assumed that he had had a heart attack a couple years ago. The doctor had told him if he had one more major heart attack, that was going to be it.
I picked up his head and he didn't have a pulse at that time. And I knew then that we were going to have to do CPR on him.
1 and 2.
When I got to him, I assumed it was all over.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5.
I was not an EMT at that time. I had just joined, so it was my first time ever doing CPR.
And 3 and 4 and 5.
And just looking at his face, and every time we kept doing it, he wasn't coming back, you know, and it was really scary because I knew him really well.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
This is my friend who was no longer breathing. It was a time of sincere loss for me. It was like when I lost my dad. And that's the only other time I ever felt like that.
A regional ambulance service medic unit, including paramedic Bob Howard, got to the scene within minutes.
His color was very ashen gray. His pupils were fixed and dilated. That's our window to the inside of the body. That indicates that there is no blood pressure to the brain.
CPR?
This was a critical call. All indications showed us that there was no survivability.
Charging.
All we could do was try.
All right, checking for a pulse. I've got no pulse on my window.
Patient still in VFib. Charging for 300. Stand clear.
All right, checking for a pulse. Still got no pulse.
Usually they'll respond the first or second time.
Pulse charging at 360.
Okay.
So when the third shock had to be delivered, then we know chances are this is not going to work out.
Still got no pulse, man.
Patient still in VFib. Charging.
I really didn't feel that it was going to do any good because I thought he was a goner. Some days I can't live with him, but I don't know what I'd ever do without him either.
IV is in.
While we were trying to start the cardiac drugs, he did start biting in the tube. Some people call it death rattle. They can almost appear that they're still alive, but they're not. It's just leftover energy.
360.
The drugs were placed on board, and Ted was defibrillated a 4th time.
Checking for a pulse. I have a pulse, Mike.
Finally, I heard one of the rescue people say, "I'm getting a pulse." It was like the world had suddenly brightened again.
Okay, just relax.
I just couldn't believe it when he came to, and there was nothing wrong with him. He wasn't groggy, he wasn't anything. So what's one of the first things he wanted to know? Whether he won. He wanted to know what his time was.
If you can grab this bag, we will, okay?
This was my first cardiac call as a paramedic, and I can tell you I was honestly very nervous. But to have a man come back and talk to you coherently was just a gift. Ted is alive today because a group of people took the time to learn CPR.
Who did CPR?
And they kept him viable.
Great job.
So that when we arrived with all of our fancy equipment and drugs, we had something to work with.
Just relax, you'll be fine.
Two years later, Ted Jones continues to enjoy life to the fullest.
The following week, I was driving my mules at a plowing contest, and the guy says, "What, are you crazy? You were just in the hospital." I said, "Oh." I said, "I was dead too. But I'm here today, and if I die here today, I'm going to die happy with my mules in my hands. And that's how I'm going to live my life."
That's what you said. I just wouldn't be the same person if Ted weren't able to come in and visit. Watching people assist another human being that probably most of them didn't even know restored a whole lot of faith in humanity for myself. And this is one day the man in the black coat didn't win.
There's no way that I could ever tell people how happy I am that he's still there to nag and complain about everything I do. I wouldn't be anywhere near the same person that I am without my father around. And I can't thank those people enough that saved it.
Lucky you're there.
Ted used to pick on me for doing volunteer work, but when he had gotten home from the hospital, he said he was sorry that he had said that. He would never pick on me about volunteer work again, that I saved his life.
My little girl, Melissa, had an airbag. It was A.J. Corzolis.
He's a miracle child. You know, I feel good about that.
They're best of friends. They always will be. They'll never forget each other.
Today on Rescue 911, a shocking wake-up call. An accidental overdose sends a 3-year-old into a deep coma.
We really were uncertain if she was going to survive.
Her family prays for a miracle.
I felt so guilty because it was my medicine she had took.
Plus,
He's never going to.
curiosity leads the family pet into danger.
For more full Rescue 911 videos, hit the big red button and subscribe. Peace out, YouTube. I'm going to click on and finish event now. But I think the Get TV schedule changed, so Rescue 911 isn't on anymore.